I came here today for some help with laying new pipes.
Yeah.
I keep telling everyone if they ask me what do you want to do or what do you want to be, and I say I want to be happy no matter what. And so I would like, I guess maybe a rampage.
So that's unconditional happiness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Happy no matter what.
No matter what
Can
happens.
you be happy when you've got your nose in the what?
In the what? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe not.
So maybe you want to just shorten that statement. I want to be happy.
I want to be happy.
No matter what.
I want...
In spite of that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and
exactly, right? I guess that's where my problem lies.
In spite of that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that.
Yeah, a lot of layers, right? Yeah. So I need those new pipes, right. Yes.
The thing that we realize as we interact with you, especially after a day like this, when we've really talked about how you've already done all the asking and Source has already done all the answering, and that your only work is to just chill out.
Right.
It's always interesting when you come with such intensity about sorting it out, because the sorting it out just complicates it all.
Right.
So I want to go back to the basics and just ask you a few questions. Do you understand you're a vibrational being?
Yes.
And do you understand that the vibration of your desire is particular, and that the vibration of your belief is particular, and that they may not be blended? So if you've got a desire that is contradictory to your belief, or a better way of saying it is a belief that's contradictory to your desire, then every time you think about your desire, you activate your belief about that desire right where it is. So it's the oddest thing. You really mean to do good work, but every time, or nearly so, that you think about what you want, you just activate it right where you've been practicing it. And then around you go again.
Right.
More conversation about
Absolutely.
it. And so that's why we want to get you on another subject. We want to get you off the subject of what you think you might need to do in order to be happy, and just on the subject of what happiness feels like. Now, after a conversation like we've had today, you're in a really good place to do that. And so what does that high-flying happiness feel like? Can you remember ever living any of it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like what?
Like being on the beach, sunshine, being with friends, laughing, having fun, being on stage. I do acting and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pick some piece of it that you're sure is really pure and not hindered by any complicating contradiction.
That follows, right?
And just focus there for just a little bit. Just focus there for just a little bit.
Okay.
And speak about it if you want to.
It's warm and it's easy and it feels great.
Easy. It's warm and easy and feels great. Now, is there enough meat in that to get momentum going? That's a soft place to begin, but it feels good to feel good. And I like feeling good, and I like waking up feeling good, and I like warm and soft and easy, and I also like when momentum is applied to warm and soft and easy. So what happens when you're comfortable and you're satisfied and you're feeling good and you're interacting with others? Do you just sit there and say nothing as you look out and just acknowledge that you're all having a similar time, and so your bodies are responding to the situation in similar ways, so you don't need to discuss anything? Or do you usually have a feeling of wanting to communicate?
Oh, absolutely.
And is that feeling of wanting to communicate a sort of eagerness that bubbles up within you?
Yeah.
And isn't it fun when you say something and somebody else is on exactly the same wavelength and they resonate with it, and
Absolutely.
then they say something back and you know that you're right there in the same place? And isn't it fun when you realize that you don't have to exchange a lot of words, because this is not someone far from understanding what you understand, so you don't have to build a whole encyclopedia of knowledge in order to bring them up to speed with where you are. You don't have to explain yourself. In fact, you don't even seem to have to explain yourself at all, because you are already free and easy, and so the universe already delivered to you the perfect combination of circumstances, so there's no trying involved here. You don't have to be clever, and you don't have to be smart, and you don't have to be funny. You just are. You just are all of that, and so are all of them. And so there you are. Doesn't that feel good? Have you ever been in a situation like that? Of course you have. Many, many, many times where it feels effortless and yet evolving. Ooh, what about that? You mean momentum is gathering without effort? We're really onto something important here. You mean that momentum, positive momentum, can ensue and perpetuate without me trying? What a concept. That's really what we're talking about.
Right.
We're talking about the absence of resistance being the perpetuating force. It's like free energy.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur in this world. Now think about that. Does that mean that there is such a momentum of well-being going that all I have to do is not hinder it, and that momentum will take me to wherever I want to go? That's what it means.
Yeah.
So does that mean that the trying that I've been doing was for nothing? No, because the trying that you did was step one, and it caused you to ask. In fact, ooh, what a day this has been. In fact, in knowing what I don't want, I launched a rocket of what I did want, and I did it often enough that that is the momentum of non-physical. That is the momentum of well-being. That is the momentum of the all is wellness. That is the momentum. So since the momentum is naturally perpetuated, and then source is focused upon it and continuing to perpetuate it, then my trying now could be another step one moment. But what am I wanting to do as I am allowing myself to be the vibrational achiever of a grid that allows that momentum to sweep into my experience for actualization and realization and manifestation and materialization? Are you with us? Are you with us? Yeah. So the question is not how do I create my own reality? How do I allow the momentum of the reality that I've already created? How do I now allow the reality, the materialization, the manifestation, the actualization? How do I allow that? Is it by trying? That's another step one moment. That's another step one moment. That gets momentum going. But the allowing is about being willing to accept yourself as perfect enough that you can stop trying now. To accept that you've done all the trying. You've created it all. Source has agreed with you and is complying completely and is in full resonance with your success. And now your work is just to love yourself enough to let the well-being in. So now let's go back to the beach. So you're just there. It's warm and it's easy. And you're not trying. You're just happy. You're just happy. But now you're milking it because you're on to it.
Yeah.
So you're focusing a little more on the beauty of this day and on the good feeling of your body and of the perfection of your friends. You're talking a little clearer, not with the intent of impressing anyone, not with the intent of making anything happen, but with the singular intent of milking the good feeling moment in order to allow the universe through the path of least resistance to reveal to you, or for you to be aware of the revelation that's coming to you. Revelization, that's a good word. Realization and revelation is a revelization. The realization of. The realization of. And does it ever end? Not ever. You never get to the end of that good stuff.
Okay, good.
So when something happens that dips you down and causes you to not feel good after you've been in Cancun and you've been happy and you've been convinced that that's where you belong, and so now but you find yourself not on that high-flying disc, what does that mean? You're having a step one moment. Well, what's a step one moment? Well, a step one moment is the way you add momentum to the vortex. But the step three moment is how you allow the momentum that the vortex has to come into your physical experience. We've come into a new realization today, haven't we? So, have we convinced you the value of your laziness?
I'm bad at being lazy.
Wasn't our intention, because there's no laziness in focus. And there's no absence of focus in allowing well-being to come to you. Because you've trained yourself out of that natural allowing. And now you have to train yourself back into it. You have to convince yourself that it's all right for you to chill.
Right.
You have to convince yourself that you've done your work. And you have to pat yourself on the back for the contrast that you've lived. So are we condemning those old clogged pipes, or was the clogging of those pipes part of the gaining of the momentum that is now causing you to have the ability to lay the new ones? So can you get it wrong? And could it be fun all along the way? More?
Yes.
Mostly? And aren't you kind of eager about life in a way that you have not been so much lately?
Yeah.
And don't you want to be nicer to yourself?
Yes.
And don't you want to pull back a little bit from your achievement standards? And just allow some of what you've already achieved to flow into your experience in a more obvious way?
Yeah.
If you could see into your vortexes the way we do, you'd worry about nothing ever.
Okay.
You'd just say, ooh, it's all there. How can I
Dive in.
How can I meter it out for fullest realization of the satisfaction of it?
Okay.
Diving in is sort of like gluttony. Diving in is sort of like being afraid that it'll get away if I don't get in there and grab it all up.
Right. Sure.
But how can I pace myself so that each moment in time I can be the unfolding being that I'm born to be?
Okay.
The other night, Esther and a friend were in a part of town that was not familiar to Esther at all, having dinner at a Thai restaurant. And when they left, they got into the parking lot, and there was a man who came right up to Esther, and he said, I'm lost, can you help me? And he had a paper with an address on it. And so Esther got out the paper she had with the address of the Thai restaurant and compared the two and said, well, it looks like where we are and where you want to be is about 2 blocks different. And she said, I think it's 2 blocks that way, but I'm not sure which way it is. So she said, I'll program your address into my navigational system. Follow me. So she programmed his address into her navigational system and pulled out of the parking lot, and Magellan said, you have arrived. And Esther said, clearly not. And she thought, well, you're just confused, Magellan. So now this man is following her. And so she drives out onto the roadway and went 2 blocks that way, and she could see she was getting further from the destination. So she came back, and then she drove 2 blocks that way, and she could see it was like where she wanted to be was where she was, but it wasn't there. And he had given her the name of it. It was late at night. It was about 9 o'clock, and it was a diagnostic sleep center. So he was looking for a place to get some sleep, clearly. And Esther said, don't worry, we'll figure this out. Do you have a phone number? And so there was a number. Esther called the number, and it went to a voicemail. And she called it again, and it went to a voicemail. And so she said, well, let's just roam around. And so they began roaming around, and they were in the vicinity of it without knowing it when Esther got through on the voicemail. And the very nice man, as Esther said, well, I can see this, and I can see this, and I can see this. He said, well, then come this way, this way, this way. And so they made it to the place. And it was really interesting how hard it was to find.
Yeah.
Even with an address. Out on the street, the address was 9522, and the address he was looking for was 9502, but it was the same street. It was just back there. Whoever figured that one out never wanted anyone else to find them. But there they were. There they were. It took a little bit of time to find that place. Mostly what it took was a belief that they could find that place, and an intention to not stop until they found it. Esther was not going to give up. She was not going to say, oh, I can't find it, because she knew it was findable. It was printed right there on his form. She knew it was findable. And then with that belief, she found a man who also knew it was findable because he had found it and was there. And so then it was just a matter of figuring out where they were in relationship to it, which is what all of this is about, isn't it? Just figuring out where you are in relationship to it and wanting to find it enough that you're not going to stop looking just because you can't find it right now. A sort of trusting that it is there and eventually you will find it, you see? That's what life is always about.